Now I would be explaining to you the mechanism of transpiration. But before I do that, I want you to understand the structure of a leaf and basically what it looks from inside. So to understand that, take a good look at this diagram. These barrel-shaped cells constitute the upper epidermis. This is a section through a leaf blade. This is the upper epidermis. And here we have the lower epidermis. As you can see, I have made stomata here, but here stomata are not there. In fact, here also stomata are there, but they are fewer in number. So very few stomata are there in the upper epidermis and more are there on the lower epidermis. Such is the case in a dorsiventral leaf. Leaves are basically of two kinds. The one shown here is dorsiventral, which can be seen in dicots, whereas the other kind is isobilateral, which can be seen in monocots. Now, what does dorsiventral mean? Dorsiventral means having distinct or different upper and lower surfaces. That is dorsal and ventral surfaces when they are different from each other. Like here you can see fewer or no stomata on the upper surface, more stomata on the lower surface. So such a leaf is called dorsiventral leaf. Here you will see a thick waxy layer present over the upper epidermis, which is called cuticle, which is present here also, but it is very thin. So very thin cuticle is present here and very thick cuticle is present here. You must have observed in a mango leaf, the upper surface of the leaf is more green, more shiny. So there is unequal distribution of chloroplasts also here. Close to the upper epidermis, these cells are called palisade mesophyll cells and they are loaded with chloroplasts. As you can see, there are loads of chloroplasts here. But here you don't have any palisade cells, you have some spongy mesophyll cells. Black dots drawn here are fewer, which represent the chloroplasts. So here chloroplasts are fewer. Greater is the number of chloroplasts, greater would be the chlorophyll present in them, and more green would be the upper surface. So a dorsiventral leaf is that which has distinct or different upper and lower surfaces. Upper surface is more green and more shiny due to the thicker waxy cuticle present here. Plus it has fewer stomata, whereas lower surface is less green because fewer chloroplasts are here. It is less green and not that shiny as compared to the upper surface, and it has more stomata. On the other hand, an isobilateral leaf found in monocots like grass or bamboo or maize, these leaves are isobilateral. Iso means same and bilateral means both surfaces. So both surfaces have equal number of stomata, equal green shade, equally shiny or dull finish. So dorsiventral leaf has been shown here. Most of the plants around us are dicots and their leaves are dorsiventral. This is a typical dorsiventral leaf having upper and lower epidermis. These are the stomata. And the cells in between are called mesophyll cells. Just like a sandwich is there, these are the two slices of bread and this is the filling in between. So filling means in between and meso word means in between. Mesophyll cells. So they are together known as mesophyll cells. The upper cells which don't have any intercellular spaces here are called palisade mesophyll, whereas these which have intercellular spaces between them are called spongy mesophyll, and together they constitute the mesophyll. They are basically parenchyma cells. What you see here is the midrib or the vein here or the vascular bundle. A vein or the midrib is nothing but a vascular bundle surrounded by endodermis. On the upper side, these thick walled cells are the xylem vessels, and here laden with food, these are the phloem cells. So we have xylem and phloem together in a vascular bundle, and a vein is a vascular bundle. Now what happens during transpiration? In transpiration, for every drop of or every molecule of water transpired, one molecule of water takes its place. How? These vascular bundles of root, stem and midrib of the leaf or in the veins of the leaf, they are all interconnected And from which tissue is the water coming up? It is coming up through the xylem. So as a molecule of water transpires or is lost through the stomata, what happens? More water is drawn up into the xylem. From the xylem, this water moves to the spongy cells. The arrow is showing the direction of movement. From one spongy cell, it moves to the other. From here, it moves to the other. Like this movement occurs. It will come here. Now what happens? There are two ways in which water moves. One, it moves along the cell walls. Now cell wall is made up of cellulose, and from one cell to the other, movement occurs by imbibition. If this is one spongy cell, this is other spongy cell. Along the cell walls, water moves by imbibition. So this is one way in which water is moving. Then as this cell, say this was close to the xylem vessel. So this xylem vessel gave it some water. This cell became more turgid as compared to the next spongy cell. So as one more turgid cell presses into one less turgid cell, like we had discussed in development of root pressure, what would happen? Osmosis occurs from a more turgid cell to the next turgid cell. So water moves by osmosis from one spongy cell to the other. Some water also moves along the cell wall by the process of imbibition. So water is moving by which process? Imbibition along the cell walls and osmosis from a more turgid cell to a less turgid cell. Now what would happen? This water which is moving along the cell wall by imbibition forms a thin film of moisture here on the surface of the cell wall. As a lot of water moves from one cell to another, by osmosis here turgor pressure builds up. This turgor pressure would cause or would be exerted on the cell wall by the cell membrane and inner contents of the cell. As the cell wall comes under pressure, it exerts pressure on this thin film of water present here, and under this pressure, this water from liquid state changes into vapor state. What you see here, like these are the xylem vessels, they were loaded with water. This water entered into the spongy cell. From one spongy cell to the other, it entered or moved through osmosis, and along the cell walls, it moved by imbibition. Now this water which is moving by imbibition is present on the surface of the cell wall, and the one which is moved into the cell by osmosis is generating more pressure on the outside. Under this pressure, what happens? Water changes into vapor. You need to understand in transpiration why is water lost in vapor form, because it is this inner turgor pressure which is acting on the cell wall which is causing that water on the surface to change into vapor. These vapors then fill the intercellular spaces, and now by the process of diffusion they move from one intercellular space to the other intercellular space, and finally all vapors come where? They come into this space behind the stomata, which is called substomatal space. So spongy cells have spaces in between them which are called intercellular spaces, and they have spaces behind the stomata which are called substomatal space. From the substomatal space, it comes into the stoma. Opening of stomata is called the stoma. So it comes into stoma, and from the stoma it diffuses out. So this entire movement, the red arrows what I am showing, that is water changing into vapors, moving from one intercellular space to the other, and all intercellular spaces finally leading where? Into the substomatal space, and from here water vapor escaping out. All this is occurring by the process of diffusion. So you are given this diagram in the exam. This one is made in your book. I am depicting here. You are asked what do these arrows indicate. So these arrows indicate movement of water vapor. These inner arrows from one cell to the other are indicating direction of movement of water, and the ones here are indicating the movement of water vapor. So this movement is occurring by diffusion, and this movement is occurring by osmosis, and along the cell wall what movement is occurring? By imbibition. So water is moving by imbibition and by osmosis, and water vapor is moving by the process of diffusion from intercellular space to the substomatal space, and from here to the outside. You are often asked to trace the logical sequence of this. So as you can see, water moves from xylem vessels into the spongy cells, from the spongy cells into the intracellular space, from the intracellular space to the substomatal space, from the substomatal space to the stoma, and from the stoma to the outside. This is the path of the water vapor, and this is the mechanism of transpiration.